Hi, I'm Mrs. Burns and welcome to Lesson 2 of our Chapter 10 section on algebra. Today we are going to look at two-step equations, the most simplest kind, the kind with a little bit of addition and subtraction added onto it. So I'd like you to please pause this video and go back and read your definitions from 10.1. Before we start, you need to be comfortable with these words: equation, coefficient, constant, variable, what it means to use the opposite operation, and what it means to isolate the variable. You should also know before starting today, recap about why is BEDMAS so important. So go ahead and pause if you need to. And now that we're comfortable with one-step equations, we're going to add on that second step. So here are some hints of what you can do to make sure that you are doing these kinds of questions properly. The first thing you need to know to get your variable by itself is to add or subtract the constant in order to move that around and get it away from the variable. Then the second step, to get the coefficient away from the variable, you need to multiply or divide. And then once your variable is alone, you get to solve your equation. Finally, go back and double check, plug that new number in and make sure that it equals the total that it's supposed to. So let's try a few together and see how we do. So we see here that the first letter A is 6n plus 6 equals 12. So here we have multiplication and here we have addition. Now we would, in the case of BEDMAS, want to do 6n first. However, we don't know what n is, so we actually want to get n all by himself. So the first thing I notice is that I have plus 6 hanging on to that left side, so I want to get rid of it. What's the opposite of addition? Well, it's subtraction, so I want to minus 6 from that, so that 6 minus 6 equals 0, so I just have plain old 6n plus 0, which I can just say 6n. The problem is I cannot just minus 6 from one side. I must do it to both sides. So now I have 6n equals 12 minus 6, because this equals 0, and I don't need to say plus 0. So let's solve this. 6n equals 12 minus 6, which is 6. That's a lot of saying sixes. Okay, so we have n next to a 6. We want to get n all by himself. So right now 6 is multiplied by n. We can get rid of that by doing the opposite, which is division. Now if I divide one side, I have to also divide the other side. So 6 divided by 6 is 1. So instead of saying 1n, I can just say n. 6 divided by 6 is 1. So there you go. N equals 1. Let's double check. If I plug 1 back into my original equation up here, 6 times 1 is 1 plus 6 is 12. It works. Okay, let's try this guy. Here we have 2p plus 9 and on the other side 13. So if I want to get rid of this plus 9, I can minus 9 from the side. Therefore, I must minus 9 from the other side as well. So 13 minus 9 equals 2p. So 13 minus 9 is 4. Equals 2p. Now 2 times p, what's the opposite? It's division, so I can divide that by 2 to get p all by himself. If I divide one side by 2, I have to divide the other side by 2. So 4 divided by 2 equals p. Another way of saying this is 2 equals p, or I can say p equals 2, which I like better personally, but they're both correct. All right, last example here for the simple ones. We have minus 7 and then negative 2 times r. So I'm going to add 7 because that's the opposite of subtraction is addition. Then again, if I do it to one side, I have to do that to the other side. So negative 2r, this equals out to plus or minus 0. Negative 11 plus 7 is negative 4. So now I have negative 2 times r. If I want to get rid of that negative 2, I have to divide by negative 2. If I divide one side by negative 2, I have to divide the other side by negative 2. So 4 divided by negative 2 is the same as saying positive or negative 2. When we see that it's a negative and a negative, anytime you have the same sign, it is a positive number. If you have different signs, it will be a negative number. If you're having trouble with that, go and reread Chapter 8 of your textbook or read your Chapter 8 notes. So let's plug it in. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4 minus 7 is negative 11. Great. We're on the right track here. Let's try a word example for fun. A cow here sleeps 7 hours a day. This amount of sleep is 1 hour less than twice the amount an elephant sleeps a day. How long does an elephant sleep? This seems really overwhelming at first when you just start reading it and you don't know what it's saying. So we need to make an equation out of these words. So the first thing we know is we're comparing cows and elephants. So you're going to have cow on one side and you're going to have elephant on the other side. And it's going to have something here or something like that. So we want to say, how are cows and elephants related? So a cow sleeps 7 hours. And we know that 7 hours is 1 hour less. Okay, so then twice the amount an elephant. So that means that an elephant, 2 times the elephant, minus 1 hour less. So that would be our equation. Here, this means 1 hour less. This means twice the amount of the elephant. And the E means elephant, and this would be how long the cow sleeps, 7 hours. So the cow sleeps the same amount, so equal to 2 times an elephant minus 1 hour. So there we go. We've double checked that we figured out our equation. Now that we have our equation, we can start solving for the elephant. So I'm going to rewrite this. 7 equals 2e minus 1. The first step is to get rid of that little minus 1. So in order to do that, we add 1 because then it equals 0. But if we add 1 to one side, we have to add it to the other side. So 7 plus 1 equals 2e. 8 equals 2 times the elephant. Now in order to get the e by himself, we need to get rid of that 2. So right now it's 2 times e. So let's divide both sides by 2. 8 divided by 2 equals the elephant value, and that equals 4. So there's our answer, but because it asked us in a specific question, we should also write that down. So I'm going to say the elephant sleeps 4 hours a day. All right, there we go. That is how you solve two-step equations. We are going to practice this a lot more next day in class.